Hook, 00045. They tell you economic crashes are accidents, unpredictable storms of bad luck, greed, or market panic. But what if they aren't? What if every major collapse, from the Great Depression to the 2008 financial meltdown, followed the same hidden pattern, guided by an invisible hand that profits from chaos itself? Every boom, every bust, every recovery, all meticulously engineered. And the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. What we call the free market might be the most controlled system ever built. Setting the stage, 045, 2 to 30. To understand this invisible hand, you have to go back, not to 2008, not to 1929, but to 1694, London. The British Empire is broke after endless wars. A group of private financiers approach the crown with a simple offer. They'll create the money the empire needs, out of nothing. In exchange, they want control, not of the government, but of the debt. That was the birth of the Bank of England, the prototype for every central bank that followed. What began as a desperate fix for a nation in crisis became the blueprint for a global machine. A system where money itself is debt, and debt once created never truly dies. This was the moment when finance stopped being a reflection of productivity and became its master. Origins, 235 and. Before central banks, money was tied to something real: gold, silver, land, goods. The value of currency grew and fell with what a nation produced. But debt-based money flipped the formula. Now governments could spend what they didn't ought have, as long as someone else loaned it into existence. The invisible hand emerged. Private interests creating public money, then charging interest on it. Every war, every infrastructure boom, every stimulus package, all borrowed, all owed. The result? The more we build, the more we owe. The richer we get, the deeper the system sinks into debt. It's a design so elegant that most people never question it. Because as long as the economy grows, the illusion of wealth feels real. Until it doesn't. The Rise, 5-730. By the early 20th century, this system was global. In 1913, the U.S. adopted it too, through the creation of the Federal Reserve, after a secret meeting on Jekyll Island where America's wealthiest bankers drafted the foundation of modern monetary control. Within a year, World War I erupted, financed entirely by borrowed money. The same financiers profited on both sides, as nations mortgaged their futures for weapons, wages, and reconstruction. When the war ended, the victors celebrated peace, but the debt didn't vanish. It deepened. The Roaring Twenties were fueled by easy credit, until that credit ran dry. And then, 1929, the crash. The invisible hand tightened its grip. Assets plummeted, people lost homes, banks failed. And yet somehow the wealth of those who controlled credit expanded. As others lost everything, the architects of collapse bought real assets for pennies. The breaking point, 7/30/10. Every cycle since has followed the same pattern. Expand credit, inflate confidence, pull liquidity, harvest the collapse. It happened again in the 1970s when the U.S. detached the dollar from gold, transforming money into a pure belief system. From that moment, value wasn't mined or manufactured, it was declared. Debt became infinite. The system could now grow forever, or implode catastrophically. Then came 2008. Mortgage-backed securities, credit default swaps, all built on leverage, all disguised as innovation. When it fell apart, trillions vanished. Millions lost homes and jobs. But the same invisible hand that caused it was rescued. With taxpayer bailouts, the game didn't reset. It rebooted. Bigger, riskier, faster. The fallout, 10 or 12/30. After each collapse, the same pattern repeats. Governments borrow more to stimulate recovery. Central banks lower interest rates to near zero. Cheap money floods markets again, inflating new bubbles. Stocks, housing, crypto, you name it. Meanwhile, real wages stagnate, debt climbs, and inequality widens. Because the invisible hand doesn't just manage money, it manages belief. As long as people trust the system, they'll keep playing. And when belief falters, fear becomes the new currency, pushing people back into the same cycle of dependency, begging the very architects of the collapse to save them. The failed fixes, 12/30/15. Politicians promise reform. Economists talk about soft landings. Regulators vow tighter oversight. But the fixes never work, because they're designed not to. Each solution creates the conditions for the next crisis. Debt ceilings rise. Printing presses hum. The cycle continues, and every time the invisible hand grows stronger. Not through conspiracy theory, but through structure. When money itself is debt, every repayment, every bailout, every rescue strengthens the very mechanism that ensures collapse must come again. The invisible hand isn't a person. It's a system, self-reinforcing, self-protecting, self-consuming. Modern parallels, 15-18. Look around today. Global debt has surpassed $315 trillion, more than 3 times the world's total GDP. Over 60% of all U.S. dollars in existence were printed after 2020, and yet, we're told inflation caught everyone by surprise. The wealth gap is now the widest in recorded history. The top 1% own nearly half of global wealth. The bottom 50%, collectively, own less than 2%. Meanwhile, nations like Japan, Italy, and the United States face debt levels so large that no amount of growth can ever repay them. So what happens next? The pattern continues, until the illusion breaks, until confidence collapses, until the world asks the same forbidden question. If every country owes money, who's the creditor? Revelation 18:19-30. The truth is unsettling. The creditor isn't a nation or a person or a secret cabal. It's the system itself, a closed circuit of credit, interest, and repayment that demands perpetual motion. Debt must always grow, or the system dies. That's why collapse isn't failure. It's maintenance. It resets belief, consolidates control, and reboots the cycle. Every time we rebuild, the foundation tilts further toward the invisible hand. Closing reflections, 1930-21. So, what can we take away from this? 3 truths stand out. First, the economy isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. Second, every financial collapse is a wealth transfer, not a mistake. Third, the only real power lies in understanding how money is created and who benefits when it isn't. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Every headline about market volatility, every speech about recovery, every promise of stability, all part of a centuries-old game that ends the same way. Consolidation at the top, dependency at the bottom. And yet, awareness changes everything. The invisible hand only works when unseen. The moment people begin to question, to look beyond the headlines, the indexes, the interest rates, the illusion starts to crack. Final thought, plus, call to action, 21, year 22, Chiron. We've lived through centuries of engineered collapse, and the next one is already forming. But this time, the blueprint is visible. So the question isn't whether the next crash will come. It warns whether I'll finally recognize the hand behind it. If this opened your eyes, share it. Because the greatest weapon the invisible hand has is silence.